and down, cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all. Time was past, hopping down, cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
Hey y'all, I know it's getting real crazy out here in these hallways and in these classrooms, but I was created for this. Created to build community, to establish relationships, created to take the limits off, to have patience, created to broaden perspectives, created to build classroom culture, created to make dreams possible, created to construct rigorous lessons, created to provoke creativity, created to listen, to empower, created to challenge the norms, created to apply pressure, to produce leaders, created to discipline with love, created to do all this despite the lack of resources, created to change the game, created to inspire, created to mentor, created to teach for such a time as this.
Welcome to another episode of Dad is Not a Now. My name is Ishmael, changing the narrative for men of color and fatherhood, as well as changing the narrative on the things I care about. And today, what I care about is I have a really special guest with me. He is a teacher. He is a motivation speaker. This man does so many things. I'm honored to have him on. I'm going to call him Mr. Johnson because of his profession, because this is a teacher. I know he's going to be like, nah, bro, it's cool. But out of respect, out of his profession, Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming on the podcast. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the Mr. Johnson. Thanks, bro. I'm excited. I'm excited to be up here and to be a part of everything you're doing.
Thanks, man. Thanks for love, man. And the next question, one of my main questions that I ask all my guests, how's your heart? The reason why I ask that question because I'm all about mental health, and especially in our community. So how's your heart at this moment?
Man, how is my heart? It's crazy you asked that because we're on a 3-day weekend, and I'm really trying to like breathe this year. I'm so used to doing events or the next thing for my students or something else. And this year, one of my things is just being able to breathe. So this weekend, I'm trying to make sure that I take care of home stuff. I take care of me, and I'm trying to rest, and that I'm listening to my heart and making sure that Rodney is taken care of. So that's where I am. That's where I am, sir. I appreciate that question.
No problem. And so, like, what do you do for yourself? Because I think a lot of people have that misconception about being selfish, because I feel selfish means self-care. So how do you self-care for you, for Rodney?
It is so crazy because I feel like a lot of men don't know how to answer that question. Because we're leaders. We're expected to go, go, go and get stuff done. When I'm First of all, I've learned that self-care is handling your responsibilities, to making sure your bills is paid in on time, making sure I'm not fearful of paying a bill, um, cleaning my house. Because we can just go, go, go and just
Yeah.
like not take care of my house. But that's one of the self-care things that I'm working on this weekend. But also just like when I say breathe, like just chilling. Like sometimes I just don't stop, and I'm not by myself sometimes. I'm always around. So for me, it's just being able just to eat what I want, sit down and watch what I want, and not being able to, oh, you got to be here or you got to be there. Doing what I want, whether that's going to get a massage or just going to see a movie on my own time. Doing stuff on my own time is what self-care looks like
And
for
that's a
me.
good thing. Yeah, that's right. And then also, I see that you're very, very, you're very in your faith, in your belief. So in your faith, how did that lead you into your position as a teacher? What led
So
you
that's
to lead?
It's so crazy you asked that, because my background is a business. I have a business degree. Was not expecting, did not go to college for teaching. Was not expecting. If you had told me in high school I would be where I am, I would be like, who? My junior year, going into my senior year in college, I was asked to help a friend to do teen Bible study. And I was just like, why did you go tell Pastor that? Like, I didn't ask that. But I enjoyed it. And that's what clicked was I love the light bulb effect. I love talking life with the students. I love helping, not just teaching the Bible, but teaching the practical steps of the Bible. Because a lot of times we can talk about it in theory, but we never talk about the practical steps of the Bible and how the reality of the Bible is just real.
Right.
So I realized that, and I was like, yo, I can be a teacher. Like, and then what made me attach it was a lot of my professors in college were complaining because the departments and the major companies they were trying to attach us to and get us jobs in, they were saying that young students weren't prepared. They're
Right.
not prepared for college. They're not prepared after the college. They don't know what professionalism is. So my thought was, let me go to high school. Let me prepare them before they leave. And honestly, I prayed about it, fasted about it, all this stuff, and everything that the Lord gave me to teach on ended up being in a middle school. Never wanted to teach a middle school, but I had one interview. I went to every high school teacher, and they was like, "The position is closed." Went to one middle school interview, just sat down, and the principal, me and her clicked like that, and
Wow.
everything that I prayed for ended up being everything that I'm teaching now. So that's really how everything fell into place.
And that's awesome. And I'm a strong believer because one of my favorite quotes is from a movie that didn't do so well in the theaters. Was Wall Street 2. And one of my favorite quote in the film was before before you become a mentor, you must become a protege. So what were who were your mentors in your early development in your teaching skills that led you to become a mentor?
So the crazy thing is, the crazy thing is all of my previous I came back to my hometown. So all of my previous teachers, majority of them are now principals.
Oh wow.
So when I came into, except for the one I work at, so when I came back into Jacksonville, I never looked at it as I'm coming back to help my community. I was looking at it like I need a job.
Right.
And never would I have thought that my seventh grade ELA teacher, which was my I think my first black male teacher, he introduced me to ELA from a different perspective. He was a principal. He was like, I'm gonna take you in, I'll help you with your resume, I'll sign this for your application. My CTE teacher, career technical education teacher, the one that was teaching what I'm teaching now, was a principal also. And she
Okay.
came in, and like every time I sit down with her, it's like, you ever been sitting with those people where they just pour on
Yes.
accident. And
Yeah.
every time I sat down with her, she was like, you need to do this. You don't want to just reach people that look like you. You want to be
Right.
able to play in fields with people that don't look like you. So I feel like those mentors, those teachers became lifelong teachers for me. So like even
Mm.
to now, like I'm in the process, I was in the process, I'm about to get back in the process of becoming a principal.
Okay.
They sent it to me. Like they like you say, who were those mentors to help me get to become a teacher and a mentor? They're still a mentor. Even I've been in the game for 7 years, and it's like it never stopped. It never stopped. They will email me. I've gotten grants because of those teachers because
Wow.
I wasn't looking for the money.
Right.
Like I had my mentor group, and my teacher, she emailed it to me. She was like, yo, apply for this. And I was just like, I don't even have anything to use the money for.
Right.
And that ended up birthing something into me where I do male summits for my county now.
Wow.
And if she had never emailed it to me or showed me the opportunity of how to get that money, I would have never came up with the male summit, which is like a day conference for young men. So like really those teachers that began in 6th and 7th and 8th grade literally are my mentors to this day. And then my pastor is a mentor. I just don't, I attend church, but I serve in my church. I'm a youth leader. But I meet with him regularly because I see that, a lot of people be like, that's my spiritual dad. And at
Right.
first, like I was like, I don't know,
Right.
super religious people or whatever. But what I realized with my birth father and with I call him my spiritual father because I've grown to that because I
Right.
had to understand what that means. It's like my DNA. Like I see stuff of how I teach from my birth father,
Right.
and how I was raised. I come from a 2-parent household. They were about their business, but my
Right.
dad played a major role. He was in the military. We're from the country. We don't play type of
Right.
thing. So I see a lot of him when I teach, but
Right.
also how I teach is a lot of him, but it's also a lot of my pastor. Because what I learned this year is like you can't sit under somebody for a long period of time and count it strange that you start to see them in you. That's a
Right.
true leader, and that's a true follower. And that's and leaders have to be followers at some point in time.
Right.
So those are my mentors, now and then, I would say.
That's dope. And just talk about what you learned from your father and your spiritual dad, because I think being in the military, I'm guessing being in a military family, it's about structure, discipline. May not be compassion, patience. It's just get it done. I don't care what you need to do. Just get it done. I want to see results. And then you have your spiritual dad. He's on that. All right, let me figure out what's the problem. How can I fix it? Right? 2 + 2 = 4. But okay, why is 2 and why is 2? So do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So can you break down the difference?
So let me go ahead and say this. It's crazy because all of the authority and leadership over my life have been, I don't want to say the word strict, but they've been
Right.
strong leaders.
Right.
They've been strong leaders, whether it's my principal, which was a white female, whether it's my pastor, or whether it's my dad. I'll start with my dad because a lot of times growing up, I didn't understand why he did certain things he did. And a lot of times people be like, oh, he was in the military. So it was,
Right.
I don't want to give all that to the military
Right.
because my dad just didn't play because he just didn't play. Like we was raised
Right.
like there's order. You do certain things. I remember when I was coming up, I was always in a leadership position in high school, and he was like, when you do something, it's either you do it to the fullest or you don't do it at all. And I would begin. He would take us to certain places where we would meet his Marines that he would be over, and they would always be like, "Yo, your dad is this, your dad is that." And I didn't begin to see it until I was an adult. My dad was like the one. I was so busy in high school that like I would get home, he'd be like, "Come outside, let's learn about this truck." And
Right.
me and my dad don't have a lot of. I'm not a sports guy. Um, so our bonding didn't really look the same, but I appreciate my dad for not forcing me to go the way that he did. Right. He gave me certain things. My dad is the type that he would say stuff like it is. Say stuff like it is, and you take it. And I used to be like, why was he so this? And he with us being from the country, he was loud. He was he's always funny, all this stuff. But there were some characteristics that I just did not get until I was older, and I became so appreciative of it. Because even though, like, as a young kid, I thought, like, I was in church. We was raised in church, but he wasn't the one. Okay, let's pray. I was the one in the house. They'd be like, all right, Rodney, pray. So, like, I always had the mindset of, like, I knew more. But what I found out was my dad's love language is, I had to learn at an older age that the reason why I didn't connect it at a younger age is because his love language was different from mine.
Right.
His love language was acts of service. Meaning, I as a male, I get it done. I take care of my responsibilities. I may not always say I love you.
Right.
But my actions say I love you. And for a long period of time, I was just like, why he don't? And I know my dad loved me because every time I asked for something or needed something, it was no question. He was there, right? But my love language is words of affirmation. I'm a public speaker. I'm a teacher. I'm careful with the way that I enunciate and the way that I explain things because that's the way that I love hearing about myself. Like I love that.
Right.
When I realized that, I was able to acknowledge the gift that God had given me through my dad.
Right.
And then it also showed me that even though that I'm not a works person or doing stuff, and I'm a doer. But even though that's not my love language, it also showed me the necessity of learning that love language so that I would be able to be on my stuff.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and then it also allowed me to know how to connect with him better because I knew how he would rather. He's about his business. He ain't about to talk.
Right.
We can have great dialogue, but did you get your stuff done?
Yes.
He's always been a man that was just like, Rodney, you ain't keeping up with this. When we was in college, when I was in college, you are a grown man. Like he would tell me straight up, this is where this goes, and this is where this goes. It wasn't until I reached my age of 25 and 26, and I started seeing the kids that I was working with that were coming from single parent households, and they didn't have what I had. And I'm not talking about physical things. I'm talking about the relationship of a father. And I realized I was just like, yo, I had a gift all along.
Right.
Then when I get to with my pastor, a lot of people think like pastors should be more passionate and everything. And my pastor is.
Right.
But if I come up with an idea that I want to do at the church, it's known. You better come with your stuff, the binder. You better have something to show me because where we going with this and why we doing it. And a lot of times growing up in church, I would always hear like how frustrating it is to work with him. But then when I realized, I was like, it's not frustrating. He's just a leader that's trying to train other leaders. And if you don't have your stuff together, that means I'm creating more work for him.
Right.
And a lot of what my dad taught me coincides with what my pastor taught me. And it created me as a leader. This year, as I'm doing my events, I was working with my bro, Mr. Moore. I don't know if you follow him also.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So he worked like he's my right hand when it comes to mentoring and all this stuff. So I started planning these events, and he was like, bro, I don't know if you know, but you starting to sound a whole lot like your pastor. And it's like, because I'm a visionary. And I'm sitting here like, I need people that can run. I don't need people. Once I say the vision, I need you to be able to see, okay, I don't need you asking questions. If it fit in the vision, just do it. If I got to be doing your part, I should be, why am I hiring you? Type of thing. And he's like, bro, you sound just like your pastor. And at a point in time, those words would like frustrate me because I'm like, what are you talking about? But now that I'm in a leadership position, I understand what my dad and what my pastor is saying. So it's just like those relationships have caused me to be the man and leader, and they've caused me to hunger excellence in a greater way. Like, I don't settle for just throwing stuff together. I want to do it to where it's serving a purpose, but it's done with excellence so that people remember it. And all these things that I was going, like, I went to school for business. I became a teacher. I'm realizing my dad has always been a teacher.
Yeah.
He's always been a businessman. He's an entrepreneur now. He's retired. He has his own trucking company. But it's like these characteristics that I have were invested in him. Like, your DNA is mine. Like, there's a part, like, that there is a requirement on a father that I, as a son, a lot of people can be followers, but few people can be sons.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you gotta go through that frustrating mentality, like, I don't feel like me and him are getting along. But will you sit there through the hard conversations of him telling you about yourself? And I remember I'm sitting there and trying not to break.
Right.
Like, I don't want him to know that. I don't want him to know that he's right.
Right.
And this is in my grown man age. And like, he would say something and that one tear would drop down.
Wow.
A son can stay there. Everybody can't be a son.
Yeah.
Because you got to be able to be groomed in that relationship of knowing that he's telling me the truth because he loves me. There's a scripture that says, I discipline you because I love you. And I tell my students that, because, like, if I didn't love you, I would have you out here just looking any old kind of way.
Right.
But that I've learned from my relationship that the love may not have looked the way that I wanted it to, but it was the way that I needed it to. And so now I give it out the way that I wanted to, but also the way that I needed to. So I'll tap into Rodney Jr. all the time, but I'll tap into Rodney Sr. real quick and in a hurry, because I understand why he did that. And if he didn't do that, I wouldn't have the relationships. I wouldn't have, the foundation of just living. I wouldn't have the work ethic that I have. A lot of times I tell my students all the time, I know you don't agree with them now, but just wait a little while longer. That first year of college, when you see everybody don't clean like you clean, everybody don't have the moral, just the work ethic.
Right.
It's because your dad was there.
Yeah, that's true. You know what it reminds me of? I don't know if you think the same way I'm thinking, is how, in those movies, they have the little kids stand against the wall, and every time they grow, they put like a mark on the wall. Yeah. It's like that. And it's like, that's the same thing. It's like you're on the wall and it's like a benchmark in your life.
Yes.
Have I grown a little taller?
Yes.
In everything in my life.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Like, literally these from 25 to 30, I'm about to be 30 in December. So we living out this last year, 20. But it's like I have tick marks in my mind because around 26, 27, my dad was like, Rodney, you about to be 30. I'm sitting here like, no, chill out. He's like, no, you about to be 30 and you ain't got your stuff together. You can't even take it. And like, it would be brutal conversations. And because of his military background, and then because of just us being from the country, we just say stuff. He just say stuff how it is. Him and my sister had that gift. But it's tick marks in my mind because I'm like, okay, this is where I need to be. I'm not measuring where he was at 30 because he had kids at 21. Him and my mom were married. He was in the military. That lifestyle looked different. I went to college. So I didn't have to grow up as fast as he did. Me and my sister be like, yo, don't expect the same things. But there were some expectations that he said, you need to have this financially. Your savings account should look like this. And like, so as I'm approaching 30, I have goals, personal goals, because of his expectations, but also of his I would say structure and his awareness of where a young man should be to be a provider, but also a young Black man of you got to be competitive.
Yeah.
And what he didn't learn, he shares with me. He's like, if I was your age, I think I was like 23 trying to get ready to move in somewhere or whatever. And he was like, when I was that age, I wish I had done that.
Right.
And there were moments we butted heads, and there were moments where we argued, and it wasn't until like the bottom of the argument where we were like breathing and like finally calm after we had yelled back and forth, or he had yelled or whatever. He was just like, y'all don't realize I'm just trying to teach y'all what I wish somebody had told me, or I had already been through that.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for you to. And for a lot of long time, I've let those differences
Right.
and those misunderstandings of each other be like, he don't understand me, so I ain't gonna listen to him.
Right.
But if I had have listened, and I'm still young, so now that I can take those things, but if I had have listened, I would have realized that he was always trying to do that.
Right.
I would have taken time out to understand his love language, to really
Right.
decode what he's trying to say. Sometimes working with people is just like really decoding. Okay, he ain't really saying this. This is
Right.
what he's saying, which is
Right.
really, as a teacher, I've learned what is so crazy, because as a teacher, I have to be a study. I have to study my students that come in the door. He's not really frustrated with me. He's popping off because
Right.
something else happened. When I first started teaching, I was like, you disrespectful child. But I realized they don't know respect. So I can't be mad at something they don't know.
Yeah.
So I've been able to use those same skills inside of my classroom with my parents. I had the lovely privilege of coming out of college, and I stayed with him for 6 months. He was like, you got 6 months.
Right.
You got 6 months. Stack your money. By that 6 months, you got to go. So, and I'm grateful for that time. But at that time, I was able to still be a son,
Right.
and an adult,
Right.
which would help me to be a middle school teacher to understand why my students weren't connecting with their parents, but also what their parents are seeing at the same time,
Right.
which made that connection of, let me interpret this for your parents so you can understand what's up.
Right.
So that's where those relationships fell into place.
And I love it too, because how you're applying that to your students, like from your spiritual dad, from your biological dad, from all your mentors. You had these all different types of love languages, and you created your own love language to apply it to your students. And I love how you don't look at your students as students, you look at them as young adults. And by looking them as young adults, the conversation's a lot different.
Yeah.
And then you get that trust factor back.
Facts. I feel like a lot of times as educators, we forget that we're dealing with humans. We get so caught up, and I completely understand. We get so caught up in, oh, I gotta do this for the ELG or the state testing. So we gotta move. If they not sitting down, if they not sitting up, if they sleep in the class, they're against my goal. So now that I've made an enemy. I get that. However, we're not dealing with machines. We're dealing with people. And a lot of our, I would say, students, whether that be males or females, young Black men especially, they don't like math or they don't like reading because they don't like their teacher.
Yeah.
It's not like they can't read. It's not like they can't count. They didn't like their teacher, which was the first marketing scheme of their content.
Yeah.
So since Miss Julie B didn't like it, well, since she didn't like me or I didn't like her, I'm not giving English a chance.
Yeah.
And I love how you acknowledge that my relationships are different. I appreciate that. I appreciate it so much because when I came into the program of teaching, they just kept saying relationships matter, and it becomes such a common thing that we don't realize the importance of it. And every time a student comes in my classroom, the first thing I say is, when your name becomes on my roster, your last name now becomes -Johnson from the first year to now. And I say, it's not because I'm trying to be your dad. It's not because if you do have a dad or not, it's because I love you. It's because I want to show you that this is a family. Inside this room, I don't care what's going on down the hallway, but this is a family in here and we grow together. So yeah, that's like, it's just, we deal, my mentality, I heard this at a youth conference,
Okay.
doing life with students. That's all. And then I realized that's the same thing with education. It's not just a faith-based thing. Education is life. When you graduate, whether you go into the career field or into college, that's life.
Yeah.
And if I can teach you that math is life, ELA is life, reading is life, Science is life. If you don't know biology, you ain't putting deodorant on. Like, this is life. Like, this is life. If I
Yes,
can
it
attach
is.
that this in the four walls of a school is life, and we can do that together, we excelling. It's
That's
not
right.
just a book thing, it's a life thing. And that's my mentality when it comes to mentoring, when it comes to education. This is not just school, this is life.
And I agree with you. And one of my favorite videos is when you had the young men in line and you redefine the meaning of brotherhood. Can you break that down, please?
Woo! Okay, so yeah, so and it's so crazy. All right, so one of the years we had just different diverse boys. Like, a lot of people look at my videos and they'd be like, "Oh, you're doing this for black males." I'm a black educator and I am here for my black boys, but I'm also here for my black my diversity. I'm here for my white girls and my white boys, because it's just as important that they see a black male
Right.
in leadership, just as important as these black males and black females see a male in leadership, black male in leadership. So we were trying to figure out like how to create this bond. And I'm a strong believer of that some students deserve a fraternal experience before they get to college, because
Mm.
a lot of them are
Say,
chasing.
say that again, please.
I truly believe and I acknowledge that a lot of our boys and students deserve a fraternal experience before they get to college. Like, they deserve some college experiences before they get there. Some may not go and some may not make it because they're looking for that brotherhood, that relationship in aspects of life, and they will go. I remember my first year, man, and they were talking about this gang in town in our school, in our county. That's not a big thing, but it's undercover.
Right.
And I learned about it. And they were like, yeah, they call him Pop. And they call this one Pop this and that and other. I was like, so he's a leader. He's like, they was like, it's a brotherhood. It's like they weren't saying the word brotherhood,
Right.
but they were saying
Brotherhood.
qualities of brotherhood. And
Yes.
I don't enforce, I don't support gangs, but I can't be mad at you for chasing a relationship. I
Yeah.
can't be mad at you. They didn't want to be on, they love playing basketball, they love playing football, but they didn't want to be on a team. They didn't want
Right.
that relationship that way. They wanted to see what they saw consistently in their neighborhood. And that looked like men taking up for other men, having each other's back. And I couldn't be mad at that.
Right.
I didn't support it, but I realized, I was like, it's important that we bring those fraternal bonds to the middle school and train these boys, even in elementary, because we have young men that are running their households because parents don't get home till 11 o'clock because they're
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
So that video you saw is we have our boys in a line. I don't do the whole fraternity thing, but I've learned. It was one year we started doing this, and it's only been two years in the game that we do this process. I've been doing mentoring 7 years, but we did this process because my boys were like all over the place, squirrel.
Right.
So the only way they would learn is when I would put them as set. I put them in line like a fraternity, shortest to tallest. And
Right.
I would literally teach while they would stand with their hands behind their back, chest up, and focused.
Right.
Anytime they would break it, it's a problem.
Right.
But then I realized that's teaching them discipline. That's teaching them focus. They just needed to be standing. They needed to be by somebody that was in the same point. And I started to see the end of the line support the beginning of the line. And I started to see characteristics like that they won't see in other classes. So I would literally teach while they marching through the school.
Wow.
I would literally tell them a poem, Our Deepest Fear, the poem from Coach Carter.
Yes.
It's not that we're inadequate, but it's that we're powerful beyond measure. Boys that was struggling to read,
Right.
was doing this perfectly. That video went viral because they were celebrating themselves. It was the end of their 8th grade year, and they went to dance, and I had them walk around. They was feeling themselves, and then I was like, okay, what's your deepest fear? And they started walking around, and our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. And please believe we broke down every line, every word, and they know what inadequate means. And before we out here showing everybody else, I'm making sure they know what every word means. That's ELA.
Right.
That's discipline. So I did that to build structure in my class because it was all over the place. So this
Right.
video that you're talking about is they were going outside to go to set. We were about to do some activity and I had them lining up and like the boys weren't in line right. And also that day I had challenged them all to wear the same color.
Wow.
They were supposed to pick a color. They had picked black and blue jeans. I had boys with black hoodies. I had boys with black shirts. And then some of them had graphics that was covering all the black. And I was
Right.
just like, y'all, brotherhood is an action.
Mhm.
It's not a word. If I can't see you doing it, that means it has no meaning. So if one brother has on black and then you was like, well, whatever, I ain't got black. Y'all didn't bring him a black shirt.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't ask him if he needed a black shirt. Y'all didn't check on him to see if he had. That is brotherhood.
Yeah.
And I know it's very small. It's like, oh, somebody put it in the comments like, oh, you building a cult. No, I'm building brotherhood, and I'm teaching boys how to check on their brothers. I'm teaching humans how to check on other people because we grow up in a selfish society.
Yeah.
And that's where that video came from. Me and Mr. Moore try to take videos of like major moments in our classes, and I'm so glad he caught that because we're correlating. We're getting ready for this Black History program next week, and I was trying to do all this stuff, but I'm learning just use what you got.
That's right.
And we're correlating brotherhood at our level to the brotherhood of fraternities that started in Black history, the start of Black fraternities.
That's dope. I like that.
And they're going to repeat, what brotherhood is and what quality is. They memorize the definition of that. And it's just like, I check them like when they're in classes together and I'd be like, did you make sure he had his homework?
Right.
I got one that's like, we learned, I had Mr. Moore teach them what is an excuse. It's those that's for the incompetence that build towers of nothingness.
Right.
And every time one gives an excuse, the other one that got in trouble last semester and it impacted the whole football team or the whole team, he never realized his impact. So every time this one gets in trouble because he forgot something or didn't do something with the team, that one that got in trouble last semester, he pushes also. Because I was like, you need to know your impact because you are him and he is you type of thing.
That's right.
So that's where that video came from. It's just like, sometimes you never realize the level of stuff you do until you watch yourself. And I'm so grateful that I'm recording because sometimes I get caught up in like, yo, they're not getting it.
Right.
But then when I look back at that video of months ago, I'd be like, they are getting it.
Yeah.
They are getting it. For you to be able to say that, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's crazy too, because what I'm thinking is like when they become adults, let's say some of your students become entrepreneurs or doctors and everything, like they're gonna tell people what changed my life was that video, Prince, soon to be Principal Johnson. No pressure on you, brother. That brotherhood just changed my life completely and put me into the trajectory that I am today. And from having a conversation about your father, I don't think you thought about it subconsciously. That's that love language that father taught you about discipline and structure. Because that's kind of, I know that's fraternity, but that's a little bit of military right there too.
Facts. You're absolutely right. Absolutely. That we actually hired a dude that's straight out the military, and he was like, "Bro, were you ever in the military?" I was like, "No." And he was like, "This activity is so militant." I said, "Oh, it is." we just out here trying to get the kids straight. That's all it is. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So talk about the apparel. I love the apparel. Talk about it. You're rocking it right now.
So hold on, let me fix the screen. All right, so this is one of my hoodies. It's called Created to Lead for Such a Time as This. It's really something that the Lord gave me at the end of in the midst of 2020. It was like, like I kept getting these quotes or these scriptures that my pastor would preach. And I was like, yo, that's a declaration. Like, we need to be wearing that. we need to, and I think the Bible speaks of that, of just rocking the scripture or just declaring the scripture. So I actually became a year in the game of a business owner this January. It's called thank you. It's called Young Visionary Apparel. And Young Visionary started out of COVID when I started my YouTube channel,
Okay.
and I called it Young Visionary TV. Visionary comes from my gift as a visionary, and being able to push at my young age. So Young Visionary Apparel supports education, school and not school improvement, excuse me, student empowerment, youth empowerment, education, and ministry. So faith-based ministry, Christian ministry. And it's like I try to intertwine all the three at one time. So created for such a time as this, created to lead, created to teach, created to, it's a whole lot of verbs I have up there on my website is yvapparel.etsy.com. And you will see a lot of hoodies and shirts up there that are declarative. And it's literally, this comes from the story of Esther, where she was basically new to her role as a queen. And her father was like, yo, can you help us help your family out? And she was like, yo, I just got to this position. The king don't really like people rolling up on him. And he was really like, do you think that could it be that you were created for such a time as this in your role to help your people? And when this came out, this was the year out of COVID. Leaders were all over the place, teachers were all over the place. And it was really a reminder. When I created the shirt, it was like November, but I didn't post it till January. And I started wearing it and I started getting comments from teachers, created to teach or created to lead for such a time as this. And they was like, yo, Rodney, I was really about to quit today.
Wow.
But I looked at my shirt and was created for such a time as this, regardless of the chaos going on, regardless of if I wasn't like, I have no background in education. But however, I somehow I got this and this and this going, and I've really realized, yeah, I'm created for such a time as this. And it's a reminder, it's a declaration, it's a proclamation, it's declaring that I'm here for a reason. In this specific time between 2020 and 2023, there's a reason why I'm a mentor. There's a reason why I'm called to lead, sing, advocate, whatever. I'm created for this specific time as this. So that's what that is. And I also have some shirts up there that say, yet now be strong. And they're all scripture based. I'm also having some shirts up there. Young Visionary is expanding to events. My goal is to also, I'm working on my LLC. I'm trying to be able to run events under that to where it's like education outside the classroom. I just did an event in January called Room 3, Ready, Set, Go. And it's really creating a place for high school students or any students that I do the event for. This event was trying to make sure that they were ready for ready for life after graduation. And we were able to, the Lord opened doors for us to get this building, to have all these connections with colleges. And I wanted to do it like wilding out.
Right.
We did it. We had a DJ. We had conversation in between our games, and it was 52 students there. So I want to be able to create moments in the community that are empowering, that's educational, and it doesn't look like education. My big thing is to change the way students receive and perceive education. So because everybody's not going to come to your classroom, everybody's not going to come to your church, but I need to create moments where you're still being empowered and making sure that my kids are ready. So that's what Young Visionary is.
And that's what you're doing, man. And bro, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for creating this moment with me. I think you like that. But seriously, man, this has been a great conversation. You're always welcome to come on. How can people find you?
Listen, you can find me at Rodney Johnson Jr. on Facebook. My Facebook is open. It is a public speaking page. It's just everything that I'm doing. Also, you can find me at Twitter and Instagram at YNG Visionary, YNG Visionary. And then you can also find me on TikTok at Mr_JRM3. Mr_JRM3. And that's where all the videos is getting posted.
Awesome. And all those great links will be in the description below. Before we end this, what gems do you have for the people before we end this amazing conversation?
At this moment, I can only give you what like God is giving me right now and how he's convicting me and correcting me right now. So you waited a long time to get here. And the distractions, now that you've here, you got in your position. Don't count it strange that all these distractions or opportunities for you to have fun in areas that you said you cut off are popping up, because they're becoming distractions to your main goal and your assignment right now. You've prayed for this moment, you've accepted this moment, and they've welcomed you to this moment and position. Don't get distracted and stay focused on what your assignment is right now.
That's right. Even though it's the weekend, please stay focused.
That part.
But again, this
part
is
right there.
right. But again, I appreciate you. And again, this has been another conversation on the podcast. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we're out. Peace.